or thereabouts, and we're having a great day today so far. Now, the issue for me at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday is to be surprised by no sunshine, because we're in Colorado. We have actually more days of sunshine than the state of Florida. Now, you can believe that or not, but it's true. All you have to do is look it up. And this morning is not one of those days. It's a little misty. It's definitely telling us fall is on its way. So good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Whiteman, coach to somebody and others. It's football season, so I guess I'm coach more often these days than I am Dr. Whiteman. But welcome to the show. 360 Performance is coming to you from KUHS. We're streaming to you every day, 24/7. Music and talk. Having a great day. Well, today's theme for me is kind of a sensitive topic. I dance around it every once in a while, but I want to really attack it strongly because there's been stories in the sports world and the business world that really resonated with me. And so we're going to be talking about making a choice, promoting wellness so you prevent crisis. Don't sit around waiting for crisis to happen. Create habits and behaviors that are good for you, so that you're promoting wellness. So basically, I've used in the example I've given here graphically, the tug of war, the age-old kids game, tug of war. You know, pulling really hard, see who's going to win. You get the little flag or handkerchief in the middle, who goes past the line. Or in some cases, like in college, we had these pits of mud that if you lost, the first few of you fell in the mud, right? And I'm using this as a metaphor to talk about pulling towards prevention so that you diminish the opportunity or consequence of crisis. I don't want to see that happen to anybody. And that's our theme today. I want to discuss that theme of mental wellness and making sure that we are doing what is necessary for ourselves first. Remember, you are the most important one first. It's all about you. Pulling towards prevention to diminish crisis in your life. Look, we're not perfect, so it's not going to go totally away. But today we're going to talk about strategies on how to minimize the crisis when and if it occurs, and then at the same time give you daily strategies, daily methods to promote your mental wellness, and that you then feel good at the end of every day doing what is right for you and helps you be the best that you can be. Now, with that being said, every week I start off the week with a quote that in most cases directly relates to our theme for today, and I think today's a pretty good example of that. So we're planning to prevent, but also making choices. Am I really going through the effort to plan to prevent, or am I waiting for crisis? See, I believe that in our world today, and I say world, I mean it. I don't mean just the United States, I mean globally. We're in a mindset, an attitude, that it's mental health on the critical side. We wait for the crisis to happen before we really activate ourselves to get involved and strive to make it better. I prefer to say mental wellness as the first step in the mental health process so that we plan to prevent. So here's my quote, and you may know the person who I'm quoting from here. Actually, it's a figure. But nonetheless, here's the quote. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. So said Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter fame, the primary educator and leader of the Harry Potter trilogy of cast of characters. It's just such a great quote from a fictitious character, but referencing real situations in many people's lives. So happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if only one remembers to turn on the light. And as I've said many times, in this particular quote, you are the source of turning on the light. It's your choice, your decision making to decide, do I plan to prevent and take the steps, both mentally and physically, connecting my thoughts, my attitude with my behaviors, so that I either diminish and possibly remove any chance of crisis. Now, once again, it's not a perfect world, so we are going to face some challenges that may be fairly critical in how we move forward from that point. But that's the quote for this week on our mindset moment. It's about wellness, so that you are empowered, hopefully from this quote, to create your own flow. You define the flow of who you are and what you do, with the impetus to plan to prevent, be mentally well, and not wait around and just go through your daily tasks waiting for crisis to happen. As my daughter tells me, Dad, live your best life. And I'm going to do that intellectually, but now I'm even more empowered to do it with a sense of purpose and intent, because I'm arming myself with daily strategies to deal with that. I'm so grateful, and I'll shift gears really quickly to our gratitude moments. And for me, I'm grateful that my kids, you don't always know this as a parent, right? That your kids have learned something from you. They're actually listening to what you do and watching how you behave and take something away that they can apply productively for themselves. And with my son and daughter, I see it routinely, both of them as parents as well as adults being productive in life, that they are truly discovering thoughts and behaviors and attitudes that influence their actions. So they are truly taking a path of prevention, of being well in their mental perspective, practicing mental wellness so that they diminish or totally eliminate the potential for crisis. I'm really proud of that. I'm grateful that they have learned that. Now, as I look on myself, I've got some lessons to learn yet. And I'm also grateful for that it's, in looking at my kids and reflecting on what they're doing and how they are succeeding in their own lives, it makes me feel good enough to be empowered even more to discover more for myself. I truly believe it as an educator, an instructor, facilitator, coach, that I can learn as much from my students, my players, the participants, even still now. It doesn't matter what age it is, there's always a lesson to be learned, a message to be shared that will improve my condition, and in this case, for today's topic, help me with strategies that promotes wellness and prevents me from falling into the abyss and being subject to critical issues. But once again, I want to warn and kind of caveat, we're not perfect. Things will change. Just like Russell Wilson's not perfect, or Matt Ryan is not perfect. I was really disappointed in last night's Thursday night football. It was on Prime TV. I kind of found that interesting. The Prime network through Amazon picked it up, and they broadcast it. Well, it's those two quarterbacks are my first example of our theme today. And look, it's easy as an individual to say to yourself, "Oh my God, I'm so this, I'm so that, I'm all alone, I'm the only one that's suffering." You know, you kind of go within yourself. Look, I've been there, so I'm speaking from truthful experience. And I can only imagine that on the football field, Russell Wilson or Matt Ryan, they're thinking, "Gosh, how can you get things going so badly for me? What's going on here? How do I get out of this?" First thing to do is remember you're not alone. You're not the only one in this world. It's not all about you at this particular moment. Now, in manifesting your own behaviors, it is all about you. You have to center on you to make a change. But when you start thinking outside of you, well, that's not where you need to go with your head. Bring it back in. Bring it back in, as that saying says, one finger out, four fingers pointing back at you. You are the root of the decision-making and behaviors that will change your posture, literally, your posture. So I'm interested to hear, as the days go on, what Russell Wilson has to say about the circumstances, the situations. How is he emotionally going to address that? Matt Ryan, through his behavior on the field, demonstrated that he was full of the resolve necessary to move his team down the field and score and win the game. And the Broncos were not. There was a feeling for me of not of desperation. There was a resolute approach by the Broncos, but what was missing for me was this sense of swagger, this sense of I've got this. I've got the connection. I feel my connection. I'm going to reach out and grab the ball. I'm going to change my position because I'm aware of where the defender's at. And by feeling that, I'm going to go get the ball rather than wait for it to come to me. There didn't seem to be a sense of urgency. Now, and I'm not saying that there was a sense of urgency on the Colts' point of view. That's not what I'm saying. They had their moments as well. Both teams had a very diminished or lackluster sense of urgency. It just seemed Matt Ryan was a little bit more driven than Russell Wilson. And I say that with hesitation because I don't want it to come off as a negative. It's just a status of being, of presence. They're talented quarterbacks. And there also seems to be, I looked at the reports on quarterbacks across the NFL. There looks to be kind of this demeanor of quarterbacks, like there's uncertainty in their mind about how to perform and what to do and how do I be a leader. There's no real demonstrative positions by any quarterback I've seen or read about that's really taking a stand. And I mean that includes Tom Brady. I mean it includes all the greats that are from historical greats. Well, history is history. You don't get to do that over. There's no do-overs. You take each day as it comes, and you've got a chance in that moment to be the best you can be, which is where one of our first parts of our theme today is the prevention. Put plans in place to prepare yourself. Well, here's another part of preparation, and it happens to be in the NBA basketball arena. And I put up the statement on this picture of Mr. Green and Mr. Poole, who are teammates at Golden State. Well, apparently in practice, and practices, they can be competitive. Getting ready for the next game, Mr. Green punched Mr. Poole, and has since apologized for his behavior. But he doesn't get to take that back. So you got to ask yourself on the court, when Mr. Poole and Mr. Green are on the court at the same time, the question I have in my mind is, who do I trust? He punched me. Who do I trust? Or Mr. Green might say, I'm still angry at the guy. That's why I punched him. I don't know if I trust him still. I don't want to pass the ball to him. Maybe I won't step out and help him when his defense, he gets passed up by the offensive player, and I need to come over and help him on defense. I may not do that. All these questions that coaches have about that camaraderie, that intersection of players on the floor. But it's a avert the crisis moment. We're working backwards from it. The crisis was Mr. Green punched Mr. Poole. Now, it was in practice. It wasn't in a game. There might have been some financial as well as more grander emotional consequences if Mr. Green would have punched his own teammate in a game. Hard to believe, right, that it would have happened in a game. It seems more reasonable, not excusing it, but it seems more reasonable that he punched him in practice if they're competitive. And the thing is, Mr. Poole and Mr. Green were probably playing on the same unit. They weren't playing against each other in practice. So more than likely, Mr. Green, I mean, he's experienced. He's been around. NBA champion a couple of times over, recognized for his game and his defense and his leadership. But he has a style that may have gotten a little bit challenged by Mr. Poole. And Mr. Green said, well, I'm your senior player here. I'm the vet. I mean, even though you're experienced as well, I have a little bit more experience than you. And what I'm doing here is giving you these scenarios that are opportunities to make a change. So I'd be very interested. Not that I'm going to get any information about this, but I'd be very interested to know about the next practice that Mr. Green and Mr. Poole are in, as to whether or not the apology that Mr. Green gave Mr. Poole was enough of a reconciliation. And maybe with the behavior recommendations I'm going to make here soon about prevention, mental wellness developments and strategies, that maybe Mr. Poole and Mr. Green will use them for their own benefit. Now, that's our second example of promoting the mental wellness aspect of things. Instead of just letting things fall to fate and you be subject to crisis at maybe at an opportune time, maybe a crisis happens and it surprises you. But I'm gonna give you this contention. If you are into what I'm talking about right now, and you are on a daily basis using behavioral methods for you to be mentally well, no guarantees, but you're making an effort. You know who you are, you're attempting to stay positive at mental wellness, then we will not have situations like this third example I want to give to you. Now, our quote from Dumbledore was about shining a light. Turn the light on. Well, the light's been turned on with professional women's soccer. And it's about abuse, sexual abuse. And I think the least of the abuse may have been verbal, but the most egregious and upsetting is the sexual abuse. You know, and I'm sure there's going to be reports coming out. There's already at the association level. There's reports coming out about coaches within the teams. It makes me wonder about what did we really get from the U.S. gymnastics team scenario other than reconciliation of the behavior, and then money, and the person who committed the egregious acts with these young ladies as they were training for gymnastics was put in jail. Have we changed behaviors? Have we learned from that experience with the gymnasts so that it extends itself into those lessons are so specific about what we can learn from that women's professional soccer learn from it? Well, obviously no, because we're discovering these abuses in the women's professional soccer ranks. It just seems very frustrating to me, minimally. And as a professional performance coach on the mental side of sports and entertainment and business, I get kind of angry. It's like the leadership who watches this stuff isn't learning from others who have experienced it, like Olympic gymnasts, and saying, not going to happen here, drawing a line in the sand, going to go out and take a look at what's going on and see if I can discover, hopefully not, any abuses. And if there are, going to stop it. I'm going to learn from what happened to the gymnasts. I'm going to learn from what happens in other areas of the world and life, and take those discoveries and put them into practice for diminishing crisis, hopefully eliminating crisis. Because it begs the question about why do I prevent? Why would I even want to put an effort into prevention? Well, the easiest and obvious answer to me is no more heartache. The frustration is diminished. Worst case scenario, it's diminished. Best case scenario, we might get rid of it. The anger, the frustration, frustration that caused Mr. Green to punch his teammate. Those are reasons why we prepare to prevent crisis happening and to promote methods and strategies for mental wellness. Look, I don't want to be in that abyss. Mental health is tilted towards crisis. It doesn't seem to be active and aware until there's a crisis. Look, and I'm not saying we should get rid of that thought process, but let's start with a preventive thing so that we reduce the number of cases that go to crisis. That we give young kids insights on the right behaviors that are going to help everybody feel good about each other and prosper and be the best, as my daughter would say, live your best life, Dad. I want that for everybody. But we've got little kids taking toy guns to school, pulling them out, and then making accusatory statements of people in class and thinking it's funny. Or in the real case situations, with all of the shootings that have gone on in our country, that we haven't learned from that we haven't gone to a proactive, focused strategy on prevention, mental wellness, and discovering what processes work, what are some examples of mental wellness behaviors. Here's a simple one for you. Example of mental wellness behavior. You smile. I really get aggressive, I shouldn't say aggressive, I get very demonstrative and graphic with my smile when I see somebody walking towards me with a grumpy face. They're kind of slunched over. When they look up and their face is all twisted up, I smile. And sometimes I even wave like I know them or something. Because I want to see if I can get them out of that space just for that moment. That's a mental wellness strategy that every one of us is capable of exercising every single day. But to get it done, it takes a predisposed notion that you want to participate. And that's one of the processes that should work for you, that you want to participate. You have a desire to not go into the abyss, not even come close to it. I'll reiterate what I said earlier. I would have liked to have been at this place of realization a lot sooner in my life. But it's here, and I'm glad it's here. As the saying goes, better late than never. And it's important for us to use these examples, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Mr. Poole, Mr. Green, professional women's soccer. Those are three examples that talk to us about the answers of why prepare to prevent crisis? Why create strategies on mental wellness? Well, because it feels better. I'm happier. And I enjoy being me. I enjoy being in my own skin. Look, and I can't tell you how many times, and I won't tell you the details, but there's too many individuals, young people, in athletics, in business, entertainment, all the fields that I work in, that are struggling with their own sense of self because they haven't been armed with mental wellness strategies and behaviors that will connect their attitude, their thinking, with their behavior, with purpose and intent. And so they go to a place, they come very close to the black hole of critical mental health issues, and they want to hurt themselves. There's cutters. A young man on a college football team disclosed his despair about life and his family to the point where he says, I want to kill myself. I don't want to be around. It hurts too much. Right there's an opportunity for me to participate and give him strategies. And thankfully, he's doing okay. Could be better, but he's learning. So examples of mental wellness behaviors, we're going to get a few more of those, but let's use some of the behaviors that aren't so good in promoting mental wellness as kind of a reverse integrated way of understanding what are some of those behaviors. Like, for example, leadership, international leadership regarding professional women's soccer spoke up in 2017 about these issues. I'm not even going to say his name. I know I don't want to say his name because he didn't do anything. Now we're 5 years later and we now discover in real time, in real terms, in specific terms, who the culprits are at the coaching level. So who is accountable? They knew who was accountable back in 2017 and didn't take any actions on it that would change their behaviors and point out to these coaches that you are in a position of trust and you need to behave as such and honor those who look to you for responsible actions and behaviors. One of the leaders in women's soccer is Megan Rapinoe. And her comment when she saw the article and saw the details was like she got ill. That's her quote. I don't know for sure if she got ill or not. But it made her feel badly about what she was reading. And then recalling that she too was around fellow maybe, I don't know for sure teammates, but fellow professional soccer players where she saw behaviors that were suspect. They were moving from the mental wellness side, closer and closer to the abyss. So her statement so far indicates that she understands that silence is not a solution, which should be emphasized extremely aggressively to those men in particular who took the podium in 2017 and said, yeah, we know there's a problem, we'll be looking into it, but didn't do anything. They knew who the culprits were. So they too were silent in a very passive-aggressive sort of way. Now, I'll soften things up a little bit and come back to the Broncos. It's a team sport, a lot of fans in the stands because they want to see Russell Wilson be the quarterback that brings them back to Super Bowl contention. Now they're 2-3. They should be 3-2. Actually, they should be 4-1. But that's not what it is. The reality is 2-3. And the picture I have here is this stadium of fans showing their orange, their Bronco pride, and Russell Wilson down on the field below them getting ready to receive the snap of the football. Everybody should participate. It's not a matter of the irate fans saying, expletives about how they would describe Russell Wilson, because they're blaming, pretty much putting the focus on him, given that in one incident last night, he was being flushed out of the pocket and he threw a pass. And I know just by his mere motion and how far he threw it, his intention was to throw it out of bounds, high enough and out of bounds. Well, regretfully, a Colts safety was back there and intercepted the pass. So it didn't look good. But if you really want to have things prevent crisis, and by the way, this crisis is nowhere near what Megan Rapinoe is involved in and the women's professional soccer leagues, but they're all connected in a very basic way because the methods to get us in a better place, regardless of the situation, are the same. Awareness, participation, accountability. Share your expectations so that people clearly know that behavior is not accessible. It pushes us closer to the abyss. Not speaking is far worse than sharing something that's uncomfortable at the time, but needs to be said. Russell Wilson, fans need to speak to what's going to make it better. We need better connections between receivers and the quarterback. We need better connections between the offensive line and the running backs. I believe that the blocking schemes are not altering themselves as spacing between the linemen. We got linemen knocking into each other and shutting a pocket down. I'm not saying that the skill set of each lineman is inaccurate. It is that they're too close together in some regards. Attention to the details is a way to participate. This is the coaching staff. And then participating in communication skills that shares the expectations and the understanding of who's accountable so that we can execute more effectively. there were misrun patterns. Now, I don't know if it was the receiver or the quarterback on who misread it, but there were obvious misrepresentation of the expectation, in this case, a pattern by a wide receiver. We've got very talented people, and look, I'm a Broncos fan, but more importantly, I'm a professional athletes fan, football, basketball, baseball, whichever sport it might be. And what I'm talking about can be utilized in any sport, any competitive activity, actually. Being more aware and sharing your awareness with your teammates raises the expectations and clearly states the goals that the parties have with one another, so that patterns can be run accurately and there can be made a connection for first down or a touchdown or a sideline pattern to go out of bounds and stop the clock, whatever the strategy might be from the sidelines. So what I'm talking about is all of these examples working towards making plans to prevent failure. Because in doing that action, you are truly behaving in a way that's enhancing your mental awareness and your mental wellness. When you take an effort to recognize failure, recognize error, and then make plans to prevent it, you should feel good about that. Now, also realizing there's no guarantee you're going to be perfect. Almost certain you're not going to be perfect. But you will have a greater sense of accomplishment if you plan to prevent failure than if you go into your practices and your organizational meetings without any thought at all. Take ownership of your participation, so that when you go into those meetings, whether it's a position meeting in your sport or it's an organizational meeting, could be your sport or the business, going in there, have expectations that you're going to be willing to share with others so that they can honor it. I don't know, because I'm not close enough to it, I don't know what professional women's soccer teams, Megan Rapinoe's professional soccer team, what they may say before they go into a contest about expectations and how they share with others. I do know that in our example with Mr. Green and Mr. Poole, Mr. Green may have had an expectation that he did not share with Mr. Poole, which was what caused him to punch Mr. Poole, and then also what caused him to apologize for it. Now, hopefully somebody said to Mr. Green, did he know what you expected of him? And then Mr. Green goes, well, no, but I just thought he would know. Well, that's interesting. Hard to know something if you don't tell him, especially if it's your version. There may be a presumption that you can't dribble the ball, stop, pick it up, and dribble it again. That's double dribbling. Everybody knows that. But if it happens to somebody, and you had an expectation that they know what to do, you would say, oh, circumstances may have been out of your control, and that caused you to double dribble. There was a bit of forgiveness. But we still had the expectation. So don't assume. There is a phrase for that, right? Don't assume and make out of you and me. Okay, well, in this case, it's hard to honor others when you don't clearly and completely understand what their expectations are. And when you have that sense of expectation clearly understood, you get a feeling like what this quote might give you from Mia Hamm. Take your victories, whatever they may be, cherish them, use them, but don't settle for them. I can't tell you how important that quote is as it relates to mental wellness. Focusing on mental wellness as a means to prevent crisis. Because every victory you have, regardless of how big or small it is, ultimately, as a team, it's on the playing field, competing. But before you get there, there are small victories. Victories for some just getting out of bed and starting their day. Because they have things in their head that cause them to slow down, maybe even want to not even get up at all. And then there's others that you get up and you kind of wonder. So have any size victory you can, whatever it might be, and as you get them, cherish them. Say to yourself, oh man, I feel good about this. I was successful today. Relish a moment every day in saying to yourself, this is how I was successful today. This is what I did and how I know I was successful. Cherish that moment. And then build on that so that you don't ever have to settle. Because when you build on it and you understand where you came from, you can get even more. Remember the realities of one day to the next. What I did today, I don't have a chance to influence it tomorrow. It's this moment right now that I've got to make it the best I can make it. That is a real sense of reality. That's got to be forefront to you every day. If you really want to be your best, you got to know you got one shot in every moment to do that moment the best you can. I really can't tell you how much it means to me for those of you who are listening to understand the paradigm shift I'm asking you to make. Because most of us don't get up in the morning thinking about, it's all about me. I'm going to make this a great day for me so that I can be great for others. And mental wellness is a focus in those thoughts I want you to have. So take this moment right now to reflect on, who are you? Why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? And look, I'm going to tell you from personal experience. It's easy for me to say what I just said, but it is extremely tough to do that in a self-aware way and make it mean something in your actions. You know, a lot of people talk about stuff, and or they put something on a shirt, a slogan, walk around in it, but then you don't know if they really believe that. It's what they say and then do that really galvanizes that you can count on them. So I want you to take this moment. Let's reflect on things as we've done. I think we do it almost, well, pretty much every week, unless I have a guest on, right? But looking at the Kona Cafe, the great sunset that we captured about a year ago or so now. But just take that big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and reflect on the sunset at the Kona Inn. As I begin to bring you some mindfulness insights on that process of mental wellness as a place to start your day and think about yourself in terms of being mentally well, so that you create this galvanized shield of protection from all of the challenges that come from people and things. So at the end of the day, you're not anywhere near the black hole, the abyss of mental illness, the crisis side. I want you to stay away from that. The stronger that you are in that resolve will help you be strong for others as they see your example, or as they see your example, you make choices to support their efforts as well. So I'm going to take a quick drink, and then we're going to shift into giving you some things to think about, some methods and some strategies on how to really, build that armor of mental wellness for yourself. Oh, what a great day. What a great day. Mindfulness, the wellness strategies. Here we go. Here's the first one. These are so simple. You're going to say, oh, yeah, I know that. But how hard is it some days to discover pleasure? Now I'm going to let you define what makes up that pleasure piece. Discovering is sometimes pretty easy, and sometimes it just kind of overwhelms you. You didn't expect it, and all of a sudden, whoa, that feels pretty good. Discover some pleasure. I'm finding pleasure in the smiles of little kids enjoying a cake pop at Starbucks, or the pictures my daughter sends me of my granddaughter in her little electric motorized Jeep replica. And my daughter is so great at dressing her up in all these really cute little outfits with funky little animals on her shirt. I couldn't tell if it was a ground squirrel, a squirrel, or a chipmunk on her shirt when she was driving the little Jeep. But those are moments of discovering pleasure. But being aware that that those images are there, so you go, oh yeah, that is pretty pleasurable. You know, like you actually feel it. It's not so much that you see it, but it actually gets in your heart and your mind and drives you to another level of comfort, that mental wellness part, so that your brain is ready to receive more. As we do on the show every Friday, I'm asking you to think about it every day, like I do. Gratitude daily. I am grateful for, fill in the blank. And I challenge you to make sure that you smile as you think about those things, or as you share that gratitude with others. That I challenge you to smile, because it should automatically. If you really have a moment of gratitude on a daily basis, it should bring a little smile to your face. At least I hope so. So take a moment every day, and maybe multiple moments. But for sure, when you wake up, and ask yourself, what am I grateful for? And that in itself fulfills a pleasure discovery as well. There comes the smile. Good barometer for whether or not you've discovered some pleasure. The other one is, as you interact with other people, share your expectations. Look, there are times I get lucky and it seems like I've read somebody's mind, but the reality of it is I can't read somebody's mind. I would much rather you share with me your expectations, and I hope that I will share mine with you, so that we have really clear understandings of how I'm going to move, how I'm going to act, how I'm going to say things. In the sports world, sharing expectations has a verbal component, but too often, in professional sports in particular, it's movements that, because we call a play, we practice a play, so there's an expectation on play number A, B, C, hut, 3, 4, 5, you're going to go down 10 and turn left, and then look to see if I'm going to throw you the ball. That's my expectation. I never said that was my expectation to you. I never spoke to you in that regard. You didn't speak to me or respond to my request to you. We just know we practiced that play, that route, and that's what I expected. I'm asking you to be higher on the awareness scale and get greater mental wellness jump charge by talking to your receivers and saying to them, I expect you to turn a little quicker because I'm getting some pressure. I need you to turn a little quicker. It's not practice. You've got to be aware of what's going on. Let's talk to each other, both verbally and non-verbally. And the same, you can create examples in the business world about sharing expectations. You know, you have strategies, you have projects, you're going after a new client, you're on a team to go acquire that client. And each person has a role in that process. You should be talking to each other, sharing expectations and understandings of how to communicate, how to be present, so that when you ask for accountability from someone, it's not going to be a surprise, because you clearly told them what the expectation was. But then asking for accountability after you've delivered the actions to hopefully get results, you're also looking for that request of accountability to plan for the future. Because remember, every day you have the moments in that day as one shot in each moment to do your best in that moment. If we don't have good expectations and a clear understanding of accountability, it's going to be hard to really freely launch in to the highest level of your performance to get the best results. We need to have that conversation about expectations and accountability, both for yourself, so that you can be the best you can be, as well as you empowering through your communication of expectations and accountability the performance of others. They know precisely what they need to do. They don't have to waver on, well, what should I do? How am I going to perform? They know exactly, because it's been clearly shared. Mental wellness, talking about bringing it together so that you can feel the best you can be each day. Live your best life, Dad. Now, throughout all of this, one of the things that I recently had to renew my commitment to, because, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be sitting at the end of the day thinking about my successes and patting myself on the back, and that's necessary. You've got to acknowledge your successes to yourself. But there's also moments in those same thought processes, I've got to forgive myself. And man, I think the most aggressive, humble moments are the ones when I'm by myself, admitting to myself, man, I messed that up. I trucked that up really bad. And I need to forgive myself. And it's in that moment where you're going to find that hesitation about going deep enough in your forgiveness to come away with better strategies for the next moment and the next day. So that if you get a chance to do it again, you've thought it through. You've been humble enough in your forgiveness to not feel badly. Get over it and move on. It's tough. It's very tough. Easy to say, right? Easy to say. But mental wellness strategies are multiple layers of these 5 things that I've just given you. Discover pleasure, share your gratitude, speak expectations, ask for accountability, and bottom line, hopefully on a daily basis, forgive yourself. Okay, I messed up. I didn't do it as well as I'd like to. I got tomorrow. If I get a chance, I'll do it even better, now that I know. And maybe even go deep enough to figure out a different strategy than what you apply that's causing you to forgive yourself. It's an interesting world we live in. There's great opportunity. And in those opportunities, finding ways to shake in the sweetness of positivity. According to Cheryl Swoops, it goes like this. You have to be positive. And I'm not just talking about athletics. This also applies to life. So I picked Cheryl's quote because sports work that I do in the mental performance coaching area creates so many metaphors for life in general, which tells me that the principles of living your best life are not unique to any one type of profession, activity. It's universal. Positivity is a constant that we strive for. It's a standard that we can strive for because it does apply to all of life. Now, in the moment when you're bouncing the basketball on the floor, working with your teammates on the court, like Cheryl Swoops has done over the years, I'm thinking basketball only and the positivity within that sphere of influence. But as we think about that, remember that positivity doesn't manifest itself naturally all the time. You might have to go get it. So preparing for and being aware of failure gives you a chance, a really clear chance of knowing when positive shows up. Because you see the failure, you plan strategies on how not to, and what's left over is all the good stuff. And true champions master how to deal with failure. And when they recognize it and the courage and humility to acknowledge it, they are in those moments, in those practice times, working through what we didn't do as well, we're going to do better now, moments. You are extending the strategies I gave you about mental wellness. And you're really anchored in it, being mentally prepared to do your best and not come anywhere near the abyss of mental illness. I've seen far too many signs of that. And, you know, there are so many great images in sports. In the last couple of days, Russell Wilson is running down the field in Broncos Arena with his arms wide out, you know, like, oh, whoa, what? You know, it could be one of question, could be one of exhalation, but I'm going to use it as he's just trying to say, I'm here, and I'm going to recommend and set the expectations for Russell as well as others. Be genuine in your awareness. Speak to your linemen. Speak to your wide receivers. Talk to your coaches about how I can do better at connecting with my teammates. They have methods of being and receiving accountability requests. They have their own expectations of me. Am I a good listener? Am I empathetic? Those are all examples of being genuinely aware of what's going on. Let me re-emphasize again what my theme is for today. Focus on mental wellness and strategies to stay in that space so that you eliminate or diminish the chance of slipping into a state of mind, an attitude that's destructive, and that slides you down towards a mental illness and crisis state where you're not functioning the way you want to be. I saw too many nonverbal behaviors on the football field last night that indicated people were letting their emotions overwhelm them, and that nonverbal behavior is indicative for me of them slipping towards the abyss instead of being in the moment, present, to deliver their best. Because when those emotions escalate to that level of nonverbal expression, you know, their head bobbing around, their hands flailing around, throwing helmets, kicking stuff, that's not you focused on mental wellness or you attempting to live your best life. That's you distracted. And the next moment for opportunity is going to come perhaps quickly enough so you're surprised. And that would be regretful. So as I tell you every week, I'm glad you're here, thankful that you are present with me. But every week when we do the show live here at 11 o'clock on a Friday, Mountain Daylight Time, we take the show, package it up digitally, take it back to my office studio, and create our podcast moments. We are on 8 different platforms, leading off with Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. 8 different platforms and 9 countries. I thought it was 9 last week, but I kind of hesitated, but it is 9 different countries. And the only reason I say this is because I'm amazed. I'm extremely grateful and humble about where that's gone. Thank you, social media. And also tools like Anchor.fm. That's where I post all my stuff, and they're the ones that help me distribute it to multiple platforms that eventually gave me the footprints in those different countries. So I'm really grateful for that effort. And as you look at my platforms, send me some notes. My show with Betsy Kelly, we've got a couple of questions on there. I did a poll. Please go to Anchor.fm or Spotify and just look up 360 Performance and listen to that show and answer the questions for me. Give us your feedback. Get involved. That's what I'm asking you for. Just get involved. And when you do, I hope you're going to practice what we talked about today, about making plans and taking actions that represent the best of who you are. And to do that, your focus on mental wellness behaviors, gratitude, sharing expectations, knowing and sharing who's accountable. Those are all ways to stay on that path and not slip into the abyss. It's always grateful for me. God, I just feel like I'm flowing with gratitude today. More like thankful as well. We're streaming here at KUHS Denver. It's a great place to hang out and share insights to you, with you, about performance skills. And I hope that with our effort here today and every Friday, that 360 Performance gives you some insights on how to be your best self and do what you know is good for you. Next week we're not going to be shifting gears much, but we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about college football, because I'm concerned that as we get back in what people think is the normal routine that we had before the pandemic, we need to realize it's never going to be the same. I mean, there are moments you'd like to recreate that you felt good about, and we'll maybe get close to those. Like, look, we're playing football, we're in the stands, right? we're going to games, we're practicing together without having to wear a mask. You know, we've got the vaccine situation reasonably well understood. There's still some outlier attitudes about that that people deal with, I'm sure, from community to community. But that being said, we're going to talk about NCAA football, basketball, baseball. You know, we're going to talk about NCAA sports, and really look at the nature of college structural development in two categories: the NIL, name, image, and likeness, and what does that really mean if it's done well for college athletes. Now, we touched on it a little bit with Betsy Kelly when she talked about funding her professional career, that golf is not like professional football. If you get to the combine, you get drafted, they're giving you a check. They're paying you big money. Not the same thing with a professional golfer. You're paying your own way. And if you get lucky enough through your skill set to win a tournament, place 1, 2, or 3, start earning some money, then it's really all about you. It's your structure. So we're going to talk more about the structure of that in regards to the college administration and NCAA rules supporting the development, the financial development, the intellectual development of athletes about their sport. And look at the sports and entertainment field is a huge, very large, billions of dollars economic impact. So there is money in those industries to support athletes. Now, whether the athlete continues to participate in the sport, or maybe they become an administrator, facilities manager, maybe they work for a supplier of beverages and promotional goods, whatever it might be, the industry is large, and I think we need to take a long, hard look at what we've been doing and how it could and should change to continue to help it to grow and be a vibrant, positive force that it's been for many, many young people throughout the years. So, thanks again for your time. Glad to be here. Have a great, great afternoon here. Well, if you're in Colorado, enjoy the hazy, kind of misty weather today. But wherever you are, enjoy that space. And remember, each moment is for you to do the best that you can be, because you got one shot at it. Make it your best. Have a great day today.